Free pile. Hey everybody, what's up? It's Con583 here again, and today taking a look at this free pile find fan. So on my way to my grandparents' house here to cut the lawn and stuff before they get back from Florida, and driving, this was out for trash right behind the car. It was kind of hidden away, but of course my eyes caught it. So it looks like a Hunter, blades spinning, everything, cord's still on it. This is very exciting. I've never think in my life I'd find anything like this. Out for trash, I mean. It's an oscillator. It's a 16-inch fan, it looks like. We got a little grill damage there, but that's okay. Let's see. It's a Hunter fan and ventilating company. 120 volts, 60 cycles, 0.7 amps. Serial number E. Something else. Alternating current. 3-speed switch. Original head wire. This cord might be original. It's got a, what looks like a Bakelite plug on it. This cord is deteriorating a little bit. Oh yeah, that might pose a problem. Or an explosion. This looks like it's been sitting in somebody's basement for a while. The thing in the bottom is deteriorating. It's got like one of these twisty oscillators. This looks like the original head wire. It's cracking, making cracking noises. But honestly, it doesn't look like it's in too bad of condition. Looks like it might be restorable, honestly. The oil port's there. A little bit of an in and out play. Sorry, I'm doing this on my phone. It might be a bit shaky. Doesn't feel like the bearings are too worn or anything. So that's a little scary. That's terrifying. That's nerve-wracking. And that's not terrible. So, I'm gonna be a madman and I might plug this thing in. Okay, do not try this at home. I'm just too excited. I'm gonna put the speed on. I have it on speed 1. Got that separated. I got into a GFCI over there, so if anything goes horribly wrong, ignore the flashing light, it's got issues. Here we go, 3, 2, 1. It's running. Oh boy, it's a little out of balance though. Wow, that thing's shaking. I can't believe that it runs. So, wow. Awesome. Alright, I'm going to bring this thing home and I'll do a further video on it when I get home. So I just got home and I took a closer look at this thing and I realized that there's actually no screw there. It's been sheared off. Same on the other side here, which is why this grill is so loose. So I have a feeling this thing did take a fall, but I'm going to run to my hardware store and pick up a new screw or two for it. Okay, so my hardware store didn't have the screws. They're actually kind of long. It's 4.5 inches long, so they didn't have them. I know one that does, it's just a little further away, and I didn't get to it today. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is start disassembling this thing so I can just do an inspection of the motor and balance those blades. So I'll be back when I get this grill and blade off. So I got the blade and grill off here, so I can get to working on those also. One of these blades is kind of bent out of whack. I don't know which one it is yet, but that will probably be easy to identify. Also, I did find out that due to the fact this just says Hunter Fan and Ventilation Company, not Division of Robbins and Myers, and also the Memphis, Tennessee, that this is made anywhere from 1946 to 1949, because in 49 Robbins and Myers brought out Hunter, so I thought that was interesting. They also made the same model for almost 30 years, up until the 70s, where the only changes they really made were the grill. So the back part of this motor came off easily once the only other screw snapped. So I'm going to go ahead and separate these motor halves and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I got the back off. If I wanted to, this head wire would be really easy to replace. I just have to cut these and wire it back in. But it seems to be in decent shape, so I'm going to try and just clean it up and leave it as is. Everything's in pretty decent shape. There's a lot of grease and crap down on the bottom. Looks like it's spilled through, so that's interesting. Never seen anything quite like that. Also, this motor housing is pretty much all sealed except for those small vents on the top, which I also thought was interesting. I got some numbers in there. CG 1655. This is a model number CG 16, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. The rotor here looks decent, needs some cleaning. It's all covered in sticky crap, the same stuff that's in the bottom there. It's all over the bottom of this. But it slid right out, so there's not too much wear, and the thrust washers are pretty much all there. And the inside here isn't too bad. It's a little sticky, but otherwise not much. So I have a feeling... I really don't have a feeling. I don't know what would have caused this, but it's easy to clean up. And like I mentioned earlier, the bearings have virtually no slop in them, which is unusual. So yeah, so far so good. I'm going to get to cleaning the rest of this up, and then we can dive into this gearbox too. I'm a little scared too, seeing as well what seems to have puked out of it here. Unless somebody just filled the bearings with grease or some really old oil or something and it overfilled them. That's my only possible theory. But anyways, let's keep going. After the motor, then I gotta dive into that electrical in the base and replace this cord. So I'm now down in the shop, so you're gonna have to excuse any background noise. Just put this rotor in the drill press and put some fine grit sandpaper on everything, and it's looking pretty good. Not gonna lie, there's like no wear here or anything. And that shined up real nice. The only thing I wasn't able to get was the blades on the back here are still a little gunked up, but I'm not gonna worry about that. So now I'm gonna dive into probably the gearbox and also oil these bearings. So I just got this oscillator control off. Looks a little dirty, but it looks also like it would clean up pretty well. And inside the gearbox also doesn't look too terrible. I'm actually kind of surprised. Although I don't really think that can pass as grease anymore. So yeah, I'm gonna have to dig most of that stuff out, which isn't gonna be fun, and replace it with some good modern stuff, and I'll repack this gearbox. Also got the back motor plate back on. I'm still awaiting to get to the other hardware store to grab some of these long screws to actually put the thing back together. But alright, so nothing in this fan seems to be in too terrible shape. I'm gonna go ahead and pour some oil down in these bearings and also dig out the gearbox grease, and I'll get back to you when I'm done with that. Apparently there isn't a single bolt on this fan that isn't bent. Even this one's bent. How does that happen? Honestly shocked. Like, I have no idea how that would happen. That one right here to hold in that screw. Like, how? I don't get it. Alright, let's get back to digging out this grease. Alright, so I just put a bunch of oil in both oil ports, and this thing actually spins pretty freely. I just got that blade on there loosely, but it's really not too terrible, and I have a feeling once I actually get that motor tightened up and we realign the bearings and that oil has a little more of a chance to soak in, it'll be pretty good. So I think what I'm going to do now is one of two things. I'm either going to straighten out the one blade that's screwed up or dive into electrical, which I think I'm going to dive into electrical first. That way I can try and power on this motor safely without causing any shorts or anything. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. I think that's what I'll do. I'm going to get into this base and take a look and also replace this pretty terrifying power cord. So I'm going to put the camera up on a tripod for once, and we'll take it apart together. Alright, so this is the inside here. This capacitor thing is actually loose, but I think that's going to come out anyways for the time being. You can actually see what that original head wire actually looks like. It's supposed to be black, but I think it's faded over the years on the outside. I could see about possibly recoloring it somehow, like paint or something, but I don't think that would come out too well. Alright, so that's dead. It's an interesting old capacitor. Here's some more buff-colored wire. And that looks like our speed choke up in there. Everything. Ooh. That's not a good sound for a wire to be making. Oh, that's interesting. Look at this retention clip that they used on this power cord. Huh. Let's start cutting this power cord out of there. There we go. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to pull this tape off. Oh. Just strip the wire instead. Alright, so this wire is pretty shot, we know that. Question is, where did it get into? Looks like some of these wires are taped up in here. This is like that really ancient electrical kind of rubbery tape stuff. It's kind of interesting. Okay, there's one of the power leads, so that's not too hard. That switch could use a little cleanup, it looks like. But I have some contact cleaner, so that won't be too terrible. Alright, there's one of the wires. Here's that retention clip I was just talking about. That's kind of interesting. The other wire, unfortunately, goes to the switch. Oh. Alright. I don't know how this switch comes apart. Really kind of, I mean, it is loose, but I was hoping to not take that off because it seems like it's original. I'd really rather not break it. I'm gonna have to think on this one a little bit. Alright, I've made the executive decision, which is pretty easy because I am the executive, that this switch is gonna have to come out because all these screws need to be tightened up. Because I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this, but literally every single one of those wires is completely loose. So now I just gotta figure out how to get this switch apart. So it turns out that one isn't really that bad. This little clip was holding the spinning bit on, so that whole assembly comes off. So it's a good thing I didn't try and pry that thing off. I probably would have snapped it. And then there's a nut over here. I'm going to try and get in frame. That's only finger tight also. It seems like most of the things on this fan are only finger tight. So that comes off. And then the switch assembly is free. That's some very old plastic-like material I'm going to free from there. And I'm going to take this one off, the power cord here. Kind of interesting also. I always kind of like diving into these fans. They kind of almost tell a story, whether it be through repairs or whatever, even just the interesting old electrical techniques that they used to use way back when. So those are all nice and tight now. Actually finding that the insulation's actually sliding on the wire a bit, so it seems like it's looser than it actually is. I'm wondering if there's anything I can do to clean this thing up a bit. Might hit it with some contact cleaner actually. But yeah, alright, I'm gonna grab my new power cord here and we're gonna see what we can do to wire it in. Alright, so I just sprayed down the switch with a little WD-40 and contact cleaner and it seems to be working pretty well. Alright, let's grab the new old cord. So once again, as with any vintage fan restoration I do, I'm going for this new old kind of reproduction cloth cord stuff, and it looks great. I love it. I always heat shrink tube the ends of this because it will fray and destroy the rest of the cord if you don't. So I've gone ahead and stripped a little bit and put some heat shrink on it. I'm going to feed it up through the base here, tie a knot in it, and I'm going to wire it up. So let's do that. Alright, I got everything wired up here. Let me turn off this fan. Got everything wired up just the way it should be. I got the hot to the switch here, and I'm reusing that same old wire nut because I think it's cool. So I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the switch the way I found it, and then I'm going to put a little piece of electrical tape around it just like I found it also, and button it back up. So I'll be back when I'm done. Alright, so that's the final product here. I ended up cutting this and putting a new wire nut on it. And these are a little taut, but it's okay. There's plenty of room for a fuse in here, which is something I might do in the future. Depending on if I go into restoring this again, or restoring this or getting into this again, I don't know. But it's just an interesting point. Alright, I'm going to slap the bottom back on, and I think I'll get to straightening out that bent blade. Alright, so I got the new cord on here, the new plug. It came out a little short, honestly. Cord's probably only like 3 feet long. It's unfortunate, but oh well, that's what I've done. I'm not going to go back and reverse that, so oh well. Maybe one day I'll put a longer cord on it if I need. I did that to my Emerson too. I way underestimated how much cord I needed. But I'm going to go ahead and see if this motor will fire up and if it's drawing a normal amount of current. Alrighty, time for the smoke test. I'm going to try and hold this thing together, see if it will run at all, but here's high. Nope. Motor is running. It's only drawing 0.4 amps, and it's rated for 0.7. I have a feeling I will go up a little bit with the blade on, but cool, it works. All 3 speeds work, which is good. I think I just need to get this back secured and it'll run a lot nicer. But yeah, alright, everything seems good so far. Does make an interesting noise. Huh. Alright, cool. Alright, so I've done some very limited work here on these blades. Using some kind of crude methods. But we're going to see if this works. I'm going to try and just hold this motor together. But here we go. So it's already much better because it's not shaking that much. But let's try that again. So it's shaking a little bit. And we're at 0.69 amps. 0.68. So, just under. It is shaking a little bit though. Alright, interesting. One thing that I did notice though is that this thing's pretty quiet. For a 16-inch fan, it's pretty quiet. But yeah, it seems to be a lot better. I think I might have to leave it at that. Alright, I'm going to go grab those screws from the local hardware store, and I will be back when I get them and we can put this grill back on. And then we'll see if I can get this bouncing any better. So I've returned from the hardware store, and I have gotten a bunch of nuts and some threaded rod, because nobody seems to have a 4.5-inch long screw like the original here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, and I think I'll video this, is basically I've got some end cap nuts. I'm going to put that on the one end, like that, and use that where the screw head would normally have gone. Put it through, measure it, cut it, and then I can use this like a normal screw. So I'm going to go ahead and make one on video so you can see what I'm talking about, and then I'll make the rest off video. So here we go. Alright, so as you can see, I've got the rod through here, got the end cap on, and one nut is going to take up, I'm trying to do this on camera without blocking that much. Grill takes up that much, so I'm going to cut it there. I have plenty of this stuff, and if I have extra, then I will just cut it off. Wow, this Sharpie's kind of sad. Alright, let's try that again. That Sharpie's much better. Alright, so got my mark. I'm going to go ahead and cut this. I forgot to mention something. When you're cutting threaded rod like this, make sure you put a nut on before you cut it, so that way you can spin the nut all the way down, and that jagged edge that you cut, which I'm hoping will show up here, that it won't necessarily want to thread onto. You can regrind the thread with the nut, which I'm trying to do here, and keep it in camera. I mean in frame. Almost there. So you can see that, you can hopefully see that jagged edge there. Hoping this is in focus, but anyways, take the nut and you spin it through and it will grind a new thread, so now that's usable. After reassembling a motor, you always want to realign the bearings, and you can simply doing that by tapping equally on all sides. So trying my best here with this grill, it's kind of hard. That will help to realign these bearings a bit. They're still a tad stiff, but I think after the amount of oil I put in it and using it a little bit and letting that oil sink in, it'll be fine. Alright, so I pointed the fan away from the camera here so that the camera doesn't pick up all the wind noise. I have my kilowatt meter over there so we can measure the amperage, and here we go. Here is speed 1. It's got a cool startup sound. Still shaking a little bit, but it's much better than the way I got it. Wow, that moves a lot of air. Holy crap. I wasn't expecting that. And it's pretty quiet. So it's drawing 0.69 amps. It's rated for 0.7, so that's right under the limit. So that's decent. Go to medium. That's interesting, the amperage went up to 0.75. Maybe the speed choke is drawing more energy. And maybe I just didn't read the tag right. That's shaking a little too much for my liking. So I still have some balancing to fix here. Something's wrong here. That amperage kept going up and the fan kept slowing down. So something's not quite right with that speed coil. Not sure what it is. So I'm going to dive back into the base. I'm going to see what's going on. Let's do a spin down time from high speed. It's only ran for about a minute, so that oil hasn't had a ton of time to sink in, but it's really not too bad for considering how little it's run. Something's definitely wrong. So on high speed it stabilizes around 0.68 amps. It's rated for 0.7, and we're running at 120 volts, which it's also rated at. Medium speed, it settles at about 0.75, which is odd. You would think medium would draw less current, but... And then once you hit low, it seems to continuously slow down, and as it slows down, it draws more power. And I shut it off when it started drawing about 0.85 amps, and it was still slowing down. So something's not 100%. I'm going to make sure that the capacitor is good first before I go any further, because that's the easiest thing to check. Look what came in the mail today. This should be my capacitor, especially seeing as though it says 1.75 microfarad 2-wire. So I'm going to go ahead and open this. Yep, that's definitely the capacitor. Cool. So I'm going to quickly wire this up and see if my amperages change at all. Alright, so I kind of forget where I left off last. It's been a little while. But I got the capacitor all wired back up in there. Everything's good. Switches back together and everything. 2, I got these grills TIG welded by my friend. He did a great job. A little filing and some paint, and that will be all back together. And 3, I threw a longer cord on here. This one's not like 2 feet long. It's like 4. So, something interesting. The capacitor didn't seem to help. It helped a little bit, but not much. So I have a feeling the speed coil in this thing is shot, unfortunately. Because if we go to high, give it a second to wind up here. High does not use the speed coil. High is straight through from the power cord to the capacitor to the motor. And you can see it's running fine aside from a little vibration. We got 0.69 amps. That might actually go down a little bit. If we go to medium, you can see that amperage keeps climbing pretty much. I think it stabilizes around 0.77, 78-ish. But you can hear the fan is still slowing down. If we go to low, it gets even worse. You can hear that's continuously slowing down. And this is shooting way up there. 0.83, 0.84, and you can hear this thing is still slowing down. So, before we burn anything up. That's kind of the situation. The bearings are real good though. You can see this is going to spin for a while. Actually, let's go to high and do a spin down just to show you. Off. Keep in mind this thing hasn't run a lot to let that oil seep back in. Spin down's pretty good though. And those are some pretty steeply pitched blades. So I think I'm gonna have to leave this one here, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this back together soon enough once I get some more grease to put in there. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this one here, and I'm going to do some asking around and some research on some speed coils from this thing. And eventually you'll see another video up, hopefully, where I have a new speed coil or this one gets rewound or something. But hopefully there'll be another video up in the future as an update, and I do really want to get this thing working and restore it because it's a really cool fan. I think what I want to do is wire wheel this and hit it with some silver paint and get this extra, get all this old paint off of here and spray paint that black also and make it look real good. But that's all dependent on whether I can get a new speed coil for this. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and end this video here, and hopefully there'll be an update video on this fan soon. So if anybody has any suggestions, please let me know. But anyways, thank you guys all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.